If this happens like successively each year, talagang they think na I have to go home now because I can't bear this like loneliness. So it's been almost 12 years na nanirahan na ako dito sa Canada together with my husband, and we were really having this really good plan before nung nasa Pilipinas pa ako na mag-build ng family dito, and dito na namin i-raise ang aming mga anak. And fast forward to today, almost 12 years of being here in Canada and having a life here. Tingnan natin kung ano ang nangyari sa amin for the past 12 years, ano yung mga struggles namin, and also kung mayroon ba kami mga success na nahanap dito sa Canada. So if you haven't seen those airport videos ng mga families na they're living abroad, yung mga OFW na they're leaving their families, it's always sad, right? And that is quite normal when we are about to leave our family sa Pilipinas para mag-abroad. So kung hindi pa natin kasama ang ating pamilya, like direct family members like anak, asawa, ang hirap talaga. Maraming luha ang dadaloy sa airport. Maraming luha ang dadaloy kahit na nakarating ka na, kasi in those years, kapag ka hindi mo pa kasama ang, for example, asawa mo, fights will never be avoided. So, hindi talaga natin ma-avoid yung mga misunderstandings, especially sa mga chats, ganyan. And it will lead to fights and of course, lots of tears. So, that kind of sadness, of course, that's what I felt when I have to leave my family back home nung papunta ako ng Canada. So, a little bit of backstory, my husband came here. Nauna siya nung 2011 kasi nag-work siya as a cook in a restaurant na mag-o-open. So, he was kind of the pioneering cooks na kinuha nila from the Philippines to Canada. So, almost 2 years from landing here ay sumunod naman ako dahil na-approve yung PR niya, and I was included because I was a spouse. So, I had to leave my family, parents, and siblings back home para pumunta ng Canada. So, initially, when we landed here, no, we lived in a place, nasa basement kami ng asawa ko, and it was really a big change for me. Talagang the culture shock is so huge in my part. Kasi apart from dumating ako ng October, like middle of October, malamig na talaga siya. It's like in the middle of fall na yung temperatures are dropping to 0. And of course, I bought like a jacket from the Philippines, pero hindi siya ganun kakapal. And I was so not used to like how cold it is here. And I was underestimating the cold every time. So that was my initial struggle talaga nung dumating ako dito sa Canada. And apart from that, we were living in a house which like in the main level, may mga employees ng McDonald's because the owner of the house is the owner of McDonald's. So, doon niya hinaus yung mga employees niya na mga Pilipino din na medyo marami din sila sa taas. And then we lived in the basement and we paid $1,000 monthly with everything included doon sa basement na yun. And guys, that was back in 2012. And hindi lang yun kasi meron mga basement in today's inflation rate na makakahanap ka pa ng 800, ganyan. Basta makakakilala mo yung titirhan nyo, yung mga may-ari ng bahay. So, now that I have thought about that $1,000 a month na basement, it was really on the expensive side. And of course, kakarating ko pa lang, wala pa akong work. And my husband just works in the restaurant, which is, yung rate niya is dun sa like $1 above minimum, if I'm not mistaken. Basta around that lang, mga 14 something. The minimum during that time is not even $14. So like 14 plus, or I think not even $15. So, yun ang initial struggle namin. So, andito na kami sa Canada. Iba na din yung life ng asawa ko kasi andito na ako. Kaya, medyo napamahal na yung expenses niya. Because nung wala pa ako dito, yung asawa ko ay nasa kwarto lang. So, medyo mababa talaga yung kanyang binayaran sa kanyang housing. So, apart from that, nung dumating na ako dito, of course, you are going to look for work as soon as possible. Dahil nga, dito, lahat bibili natin. Whatever we eat comes from the grocery store. We could not plant anything during the winter. And if we can plant in the summer, hindi siya masyadong successful kasi it's just 3 months if lucky na aabot ng 3 months talaga yung warm na lupa. So yun, just to give you guys a little bit of information when it comes to like planting here in Canada para for food. So ayun, so I have to find work, and this is my next struggle because of course the culture shock is there. Culture shock when it comes to language and adjusting to your first work dito sa Canada. So ang nangyari is nakahanap ko ng trabaho kasi in the Philippines I was a board passer ng nursing. So pagdating ko dito, hindi ako nahirapan na maghanap ng care aid work. So nakapasok ako sa government facility. So medyo mataas yung sweldo niya. Ang starting nun is $19 per hour. So it's really a good thing for us na medyo it's a kick from the the wage na minimum. So it was a good help for us. However, yun na nga ang mga struggles. First thing is of course language barrier, 'di ba? Language barrier when you first come to Canada, ang dami talagang nahihirapan na mag-adjust when it comes to the language because even if we speak English and like listen to English a lot in the Philippines, like we watch movies like that, pero pag dating mo dito, when you're first timer, the people here, the people who speaks language, English language as their first language, talagang meron silang slangs and the way they talk is so fast, hindi mo mag-grasp yung idea. So I was really struggling to grasp what my coworker was saying to me. So it was like kind of embarrassing, ganun, na may mga mistake ka because you didn't hear them properly giving you instruction. Yan, I have encountered those kinds of struggles. Another thing when it comes to being new here in Canada is yung homesickness. So hindi talaga natin ma-avoid yung that feeling na out of the blue, you are in a foreign land. You don't know anybody except if you have a family here. So in my case, my husband was here na pagdating ko. So it was a little bit better kumpara sa kung pagdating mo dito ay mag-isa ka lang talaga na wala kang family, wala kang kakilala. You have to mingle with people para at least mo lang ay may kausap ka, ganyan. And of course, you don't know those people kung ano yung mga qualities nila, characters nila, whatever they want, whatever their stand in life. So mahirap mag-isa. And in my case, nung dumating ako dito, few months after that, so like around November, nag-i-snow na. So the winter blue really kicked in. So kahit na andito yung asawa ko, for me, like it was really like a sad point in my life na the cold is really unbearable. Tapos we lived in a basement na, of course in a basement, meron lang maliit na bintana. And that bintana, sometimes this basement, yung bintana is medyo overshadowed siya ng like plants or something na like there's barely a natural light going in the basement. So napakahirap yung feeling na winter, it's really cold and you live in a basement. And sa basement guys, it's cold. Dahil sa taas yung parang concentration ng heater kapag nakauna yung heater sa bahay, yung furnace. So sa baba, talagang kailangan nyo ng space heater para ma-survive yung winter. Kapag walang, ewan ko lang sa iba, pero in my opinion, hindi ako makaka-survive na makatira sa basement pagka walang space heater. For me, it's a necessity na mag-space heater talaga sa basement kapag nakatira ka sa basement. And kahit na summer, kahit na summer, some houses has yung centralized air conditioning. So in the summer, sa main level is warm, hot, sometimes hot. So yung mga nakatira sa main level ay magpapablast sila ng aircon. And what happens is, yung aircon is meron din siyang outlet or bumubuga din siya sa basement. And the thing is, kapag hindi naka-on yung aircon, parang maganda sa basement tuwing summer kasi hindi siya mainit. Parang katamtaman lang siya. Really bearable na parang maganda lang yung ambience na yung temperature sa baba. However, if the house has this is centralized aircon and then they're blasting the aircon upstairs dahil naiinitan sila, of course sa baba may nakabuga na aircon, it will feel like winter pa rin. You have to wear your pa rin, yung long sleeve, sweater, ganyan dahil malamig pa din. And speaking of winter blues, it's one of the main reasons why dito sa Canada is maraming depressed. dahil winter blue, of course, every year it happens because every year winter happens, right? So it happens every year and a lot of people sometimes they can't cope up. Yung mga immigrants, if this happens like successively each year, talagang they think na I have to go home now because I can't bear this like loneliness. And dito sa Canada naman ay merong facilities where they will like counsel you or help you overcome, for example, winter blues or loneliness, especially for newcomers, guys. These days, meron ng mga newcomer services. There is a newcomer building where you can go to na there's arrays of services na you can use to help you, transition your life in Canada para makahanap ka ng trabaho, para hindi ka lonely. And then, para makaano ka rin ng mga kaibigan, ganyan, makahanap ka ng kaibigan, may mga makausap ka, ganun. Meron na mga services. But way back when we came here, wala pang mga ganun. So, you have to have this sense of, you have to overcome it yourself. You have to find a way para, especially when I'm talking about yung winter blue, yung sadness and loneliness that you feel in a cold winter, living alone, na you go to work and come home to sleep. Parang yun lang yung buhay mo. And on top of that is, if you don't drive. So in our case, that time, my husband already drove like a little bit. Talagang, he forced himself na before I come here is makapag-drive na siya. He will learn to drive and have a license para hindi kami mahirapan because he was thinking of talagang mahihirapan din ako kapag dating ko dito winter tapos wala kaming sasakyan, maglalakad kasi guys dito kami sa small town and there's no buses. Merong taxi, but taxi when I came here I think I was paying $8 one trip, like 5 to 6 minutes na trip from home to work. So kapag kabalikan yun mga $16, but now I just had a trip to the car repair shop nung pina-repair namin ang sasakyan namin and I used a taxi and alam nyo ba kung magkano? $10 na siya, so balikan $20 na, so in Philippine peso that's almost 1,000 pesos na, diba? And it's just like ganun, mga 6 minutes one way, so balikan mga 12 minutes, wala na yung $20 mo. And yeah, I have had that moment or that time or a couple of my shifts na walang yung asawa ko is nasa work and I don't drive and it's winter, really cold and malayo yung tinirhan namin sa work ko. So if lalakarin ko siya, maybe I will take 25 minutes, parang ganun kasi winter nga, ang daming snow, there's a lot of snowbanks na matadaanan mo and napakalamig. I cannot walk. No one is supposed to walk that far to work sa winter. Talagang it's not advisable if you don't want to experience what you call this one, yung matatanggal yung tenga, nose or fingers mo dahil sa lamig, dahil you forced yourself to walk to work. So ayun, I use taxi and it's hard kasi when you use a taxi, pag tatawag ka, kahit na you will call in advance and you will say that I need a ride at 6 a.m. kahit sabihin mo ganitong time, hindi exactly 6 a.m. na darating yung taxi like andun sa labas ng bahay niyo. So what happens is, we live in a basement. So if you don't live in a basement like yun yung main level and mayroon kayong bintana na nakaharap sa kalsada, of course it's easier kasi pwede mong tingnan sa bintana kung andito na ba yung taxi. But guys, we lived in the basement and I could not see anything. Like, of course, I said, wala siyang bintana na malaki na pwede kang mag-pick sa kalsada. Basta wala. So, I have to go outside, like get upstairs and go outside para bantayan kung andito na yung taxi. Kasi, sometimes, I don't know, like, parang meron pa silang pinipick up, ganun. So, they will just say, yeah, I'll be there in 5 or 10 minutes, but you've been waiting for 15-20 minutes, wala pa. So, yun din ang isang struggle dito. Pag wala kang sasakyan, magta-taxi ka, you will be prone to a lot of late shifts. I mean, a lot na malilate ka sa work. Kasi ganun yung mangyayari, malilate yung taxi. And then, apart from that, pagka naghihintay ka ng taxi na dumating, nasa labas ka na, and it's around -20, kahit na -15 lang, it's going to be really cold. Talagang, you will really think why you came to Canada. So those are the initial struggles that I experienced when I came to Canada. So a few years later, of course, it's normal na makapag-adjust na tayo sa life dito, no, sa ibang bansa. So medyo nakapag-adjust na kami. But here's the kicker, no. Dumating ako ng October, 'di ba? But by January or late January or early February, I guess, I found out that I was pregnant. So to add on that struggle, when you're pregnant here for the first time and you don't have anybody to ask, meron naman akong mga kakilala na pwede akong mag-ask, but I am this type of person na I'm too shy to ask, parang ganun, and I'm so new, and I had this experience of like parang some sort of bullying from my Filipina coworker. So that led me to not asking or not wanting to have conversations na ganun, kasi I felt really small that time, na talagang I felt like binuli ako nung kasama ko. So fast forward a few years, we learned some lesson and we redefined Canada as our home. We really considered Canada as our second home already. So parang nag-sink in na, kumbaga, na we're home. This is our second home. Like our son was born here and we're raising a child here, and this is his home. Talagang ito yung, this is where he has his first, like consciousness. Dito siya namulat sa Canada. So ito talaga yung i-consider niya na home. So kami is talagang inano na namin na this is it, right? So hindi pa kami nung time na yon, mga few years na maliit pa yung anak namin, we were not thinking of buying a home. We were so young in mind, I think, or at heart, na we were wanting to explore what's out there. So we moved from place to place, and until na-caught up kami sa reality na we were struggling financially because we kept on moving. We were not, our mind is like parang magulo siya. Hindi magulo, like magulo in a way na gusto namin mag-explore, ganyan. Hindi namin, kumbaga, to sum it up, the maturity is not there yet. Me and my husband, the maturity is not there yet. We had a toddler, and like we were making these really bad decisions which led to financial struggles, and until one day we realized na we're not doing something to better our lives. Like we were here in Canada, but we plan to come here and raise our kids here and give them a better life. But what's happening to us, it's not better anymore. And of course, if you have this kind of like financial struggles, like moving from places to places and different workplaces, you're always adjusting, and you always have this anxiety, you're always anxious. So what happens is like we were always fighting. We were really in this situation na we don't want each other anymore. Like this struggle is really struggling. It was really hard for us to live anymore, like being in Canada, and like we were so broke. Talagang there's a lot to learn. There's a lot of things na kailangang isipin and decisions to make in order for us to step up. So ayun, we decided to step up. So speaking of stepping up, ang ginawa namin to make this happen is, in my case, I can talk about myself, kasi I know myself and I know what I did. On my husband's part, sa kanya yun, I know he's done a lot of work also to himself para ma-overcome namin kung ano yung dinaranas namin in a few years na we're living in Canada. So in my case, sa sarili ko, I did a lot of work. So I worked on myself. So that time when we had a toddler, our main and major struggle is really managing our time. Kasi pag may toddler ka, it's hard to manage the daytime na kasi they don't go to school yet. So what happens is my husband's working and I need to work. So talagang it's really hard. If you have had that experience here in Canada, I know you can relate. So and apart from that, yung kapag ka magdi-daycare, during that time, it was hard to find a daycare na you find a spot, a good daycare na talagang yung aalagaan yung anak mo. And we have had that experience also. And on top of that, daycares are expensive per hour during that time. I mean that time I think we were paying $40 a day. It doesn't matter, I guess, how much time the child is there. I forgot, I could not recall the details, but for us it's expensive already. So talagang mahirap yung ganun na situation na may anak kayo and then hindi kayo pwedeng mag-decide na, oh, you stay home because, walang magbabantay sa anak natin. Because financially, you're also struggling, so you need to work. And there was a time na at 6 a.m., I wasn't driving, so this is our also struggle during the time, no? So, there was this time na I have to go to work at like, I have to leave home at 6:30 a.m., and my husband has to drive me to work. And we could not just leave our toddler at home like that. That's not in our talaga na we will leave our toddler if we have to go somewhere alone kahit na natutulog kasi anything will happen pag talikod mo. So ayun. Kaya ang naawa talaga ako sa anak ko nung time na yun kasi we have to wake him up that early. And sometimes he's crying, he's grumpy, ganyan. And I have to put his snowsuit on and then go outside sa 6:30 a.m. na it's still dark dito sa Canada pagka ganun winter. Isa pa yun, maano talaga siya. Madilim pa sa labas, napakalamig, especially kung may yung parang it hits minus like 30. Because there's a time here, winter time here in Canada, may time na may days or sometimes even weeks na abot siya ng ganun. So, that was a point in our life na talagang we were so low. I could say the lowest point in our life na we have to do that. Our toddler will have to experience that kind of life. So we made the conscious decision na we'll change everything. But if you have this, mindset na we have to change this, like kung ano man yung sitwasyon natin, we have to do something. But it just doesn't happen overnight. Kahit na gaano mo ka gusto na i-change, flip over yung isang situation sa buhay mo, like gusto mong mabago yung isang punto or pangyayari sa buhay mo or something, it doesn't happen overnight. And kahit na may ginagawa ka na, it doesn't mean na you will see the difference or you will see the result. Everything happened when something happened to me. An unfortunate event happened in our life which led to a series of events na it flipped our life over. Talagang na-change yung major majority sa buhay namin dahil sa isang pangyayari, and that is when I had to have a surgery, emergency surgery, where I almost died because of ectopic pregnancy. So, and the worst thing is it happened while we were in the Philippines. We were in a vacation and we were about to leave like a day after we were about to leave kasi nga babalik na kami ng Canada, and that's when it happened. So my husband had to come here alone, and then andun pa ako kasi I was still healing kasi hindi pang nung pumunta yung asawa ko dito bumalik ng Canada, I was still there in the hospital. I was still confined. So that time it's still talagang that time we were still broke, guys, and to think na yung asawa ko lang yung babalik kanya, it's like a lot happened, pero I was thankful that it happened dahil it led to a lot of things na later on I realized na that time I struggled to accept the fact that I lost a baby, ganyan, like our life were flipped over, but years after I really realized na it happened for a reason. And you should think that way, that it always happens for a good reason. So, ayun ang nangyari. So, bumalik kami ng Canada ng anak ko after like a month or 2 months, I guess. And yeah, hindi ako makabalik sa work ko because if you haven't experienced being a care aide here in Canada, it's quite heavy. The work is quite physically demanding. Kasi you have to sometimes like move the residents, you have to use your force, and I could just not do that dahil nga kaka-opera ko pa lang and I had a really major surgery. Kasi nga they had to do cleaning inside already because I was bleeding. I was losing a lot of blood already. So, ayun. I'm sorry for the TMI, pero yun ang yung nangyari. And then, that happened, and one day, we just woke up, and we were thankful that those things happened because it led to something na positive sa buhay namin. So, itong time na to, we were feeling a lot of gratitude already because we were able to get out of our situation. We were slowly crawling up the ladder na we paid our debts. We had a small business na talagang nakatulong sa amin. During the pandemic, I know it's not good to say na ang dami talagang nag-struggle dahil ang daming nawala ng trabaho, ganyan. But during that time, we were fortunate, like maswerte kami kasi yun nga, hindi kami naapektuhan negatively nung pandemic. So we really thank God for that. So looking back with everything that happened to us here in Canada, it's a good experience overall. It's really good. Like when it comes to the environment is really nice here in Canada. Hindi naman talaga siya may pagkakaila. It's really good. The systems are good. Healthcare, although may hiccups, although may negative side, but overall, I can say na maganda pa rin. Because when I had my son, I didn't have to pay anything, guys. We only paid maybe $10 or $20 for the parking for the couple of days na andun kami. So, it's not bad. Tapos, when it comes to child raising, yeah, it's good naman kasi dito, teachers are really gentle with the kids. You can really have this reassurance na your kids will be safe in the school. Kasi they take care of our kids talaga. And they have systems in place everywhere in the community to make our kids safe. And they have this like activities and plans all throughout the year, especially during the summer, for the kids to be involved and have fun. Talagang it's nice to raise a kid here. So overall, living in Canada is really good. However, this is the however part. Alam naman natin lahat, no? Like everywhere in the world na there's a big change in like the finances, like all over the world when it comes to inflation. So Canada is not an exception to that. So it's been expensive living here for the past, I would say, 2 years. It's like before, no, when we came here, that big cart, when we go to grocery shopping, we will fill that whole cart with groceries for like $100, like 120, as in punong-puno na siya. Like it's already bursting in the seam. Parang ganun. However, in today's rates, in today's prices, yung grocery bag na, as in average, like maliit nga siya eh. Pupunta ako ng co-op. It will own $80 na yun, which is like, I don't know, 4-5 items. Napakamahal na. And yung sinabi ko na full cart na yun, in today's prices, it's gonna be around $300. I would say $300 yung safe na talaga, babayaran mo talaga pagka ganung punong-puno yung cart mo. That is, we're living in a small city ha. I don't know in the bigger city if ganito ba kamahal yung mga nila, yung mga groceries nila. But yun, that's one of the reflections that I have observed. Like, that's one of my reflections these days dito sa Canada na although everything is still the same, good, ganyan, yun, it's just living here has been harder, especially if you did not manage your finances well, na yung may mga utang ka. So, that will really escalate or make your situation worse when it comes to the inflation here. Kasi we have to live here, like living, like breathing, eating. So we have to pay, even like sa bahay natin, no? The bills are really high na. So way back when we were renting, we were paying power. So this is just a comparison, ha. So we were paying power around $60 to $70 per month. That's like $70 is like the biggest already that we have to pay for power. But nowadays, guys, I have this power bill that's like 130. Medyo marami naman kaming ilaw dito, but I really observed na nagmahal talaga yung rate nila. And of course, carbon tax. There's a lot of taxes na na-add dito sa Canada, guys. And this is just a trivia, no? These days, may inad na ang government na DST, which is digital sales tax, I guess. It's for the digital services na ginagamit natin. So, before is meron lang GST and PST. GST is the federal tax, sales tax for the products and services na ginagamit natin, and PST is for the provincial. So yung province yung tatanggap nung tax na yun, nung pera na yun. And yung DST, I think, is still federal, and it's for the digital services. So my case, I do like some sort of, like for example, I advertise, and apart from magbabayad ako nung nagamit ko talaga sa advertising, merong tax na called DST, Digital Sales Tax. This video has been so long already, so if you're still here, thank you. And I have a message for everyone who's listening to me right now, yung mga nakikinig sa kung ano man ang pinagsasabi ko dito. If you are in the Philippines or somewhere, and then you're really thinking and aspiring to come to Canada one day and work or live here, raise your family here, yeah, maganda pa rin ang Canada. And this is like the negative things that I say. It's not to discourage you guys, or not to discourage anyone who's on the edge of coming to Canada. This is not to discourage you, but of course to just bring you some awareness na this is happening here in Canada. This is what's going on, and I have a lot to say. So if you guys would like to hear more about my thoughts, reflections, like my life vlogs, what I do, all these things about me and my family, you can subscribe to my channel and make sure to click the notification bell so that you will receive notifications each time I upload a video, which I plan on doing often. So guys, maraming salamat for listening to my raves and rants, thoughts, reflections, all these years of living in Canada. And I hope to see you guys again sa mga susunod ko na video. Maraming salamat.